First of all, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here. I've heard yesterday was a massive success, so hopefully today continues in the same vein. Yeah. Ishan, very good morning to you as well.
Morning, DK. I was just joking that at 10 a.m. start, it's probably not going to see too many people in the audience, but we already see the room filling up over here, and I'm sure it's not because of me.
Well, I can say for a start, there's more people here than the India-West Indies test match. First of all, you're part of a journey that is a very interesting place, I feel. If you look at where sport is in general, and just the VT that we had here, there's a lot of smaller sports coming in with a lot of action as well. For example, Kabaddi is a great example. People didn't know what Kabaddi was before the PKL had started. Today, it is in a very, very different place. And then you have the beast like IPL, which is based on cricket. And you have other sport from other nations who are trying to get a fair share of the pie as well by coming to India. How hard is it to balance all these three things together?
Look, it's a challenge. I won't deny it. But the great thing is that we are in a country where the growth of the sports economy is literally just picking up. And I think the next 5 to 10 years, DK, is going to be crazy for the sports economy. Deloitte recently did a study in which they said India's sports economy is going to grow from $30 billion to $70 billion between 2023 and 2030. To put that in perspective, Brazil is at 6 to 8 billion. The UK, which is such an advanced market, is about 40 billion. So there's a lot of growth that's happening here. A lot of it, as you say, is driven by men's cricket. I actually think that the leadership that men's cricket will have in the overall sports economy will continue. And the reason for that is the scale it operates at, the innovation that we are seeing in the way the product is actually designed and delivered, but most importantly, the quality of the cricket and the results that our team is putting up on the board. I think that's going to take care of men's cricket itself. But to your point, I think the big trend that we are betting on is the rise of sports in India. Whether those are established sports like tennis and football or kabaddi, or even new and nascent sports like esports. We think that's where we're going to see a lot of exponential growth. And that's not just because we would like that to happen, but it's because as soon as you have Indian talent and Indian sports people start to deliver really great results, you're going to start to see the growth of fandom in the country. I mean, just look at what Neeraj Chopra did for the javelin. The second big thing is there's so much investment going in at the grassroots level, whether it is from the government itself, which is really investing in multiple sports, but also from the private sector. And finally, you and I were just talking about this off stage, the role that technology is going to play in packaging up sports and presenting it as a personalized, immersive experience, which is different for you and different for me. I think that combination together is going to really drive the growth of other sports.
It's quite fascinating to hear you speak about what technology does in the broadcasting world. Obviously, it drives a large part of it. And the same technology has played a big part in cricket as well. There's a person sitting here. He actually, in many ways, I know he won't like me saying this, but he changed the fate and fortune of a very interesting franchisee called the Knight Rider franchisee, Kolkata Knight Riders. When he joined in 2010, I remember that it was a team which had good names, but probably didn't play up to its potential. But what Venki Mysore, the man I'm referring to, came in and did was the use of technology, which was obviously stats-based thing, numbers, understanding what numbers mean. As I was growing up, technology was a bit of a taboo. I remember early 2000s when a little bit of technology was used. Technology at that stage would mean videotaping what you're batting, videotaping a bit of your bowling. But a lot of the senior cricketers actually had a bit of a pushback towards it and saying cricket is a field-based sport. Arey yes, video dekh ke confuse mat ho jao. That is the kind of impression they had to what it is today, where, for example, in cricket we use the Hawkeye data. What a bowler is, what sort of lengths he is bowling, etc. And let's go back to 2010 when Venki sir actually used technology to find out, using numbers, what's the kind of opening partnerships has worked. Everybody would give you a bland answer like left-right is great. Everybody knows left-right is great. But what's the combination you want to go with? So the beauty of technology is the questions you ask of it, and then getting the feedback and using it in your experience. And you've been part of one of the fastest growing platforms, if not the best platform that there has ever been, YouTube. And that is completely technology based. And here we are in the broadcasting industry where there is a little bit of technology coming in the way of digital, and there is obviously the usual one where people are seeing it across smaller villages and everywhere else. How do you bridge that gap actually?
I think that is the question that us awake at night the most, DK. But if I take a step back, you referenced when I was working at YouTube. See, one of the things about India as a country is that we are at the cutting edge of adoption of new technologies as they come in. I remember reading recently that ChatGPT and OpenAI, India is now the second largest market already for ChatGPT, which is quite an advanced use of technology in that sense. So in our case, we are always led by the consumer. If our consumers are keen to adopt technology, which we have seen across the board that they are, then that's what gives us the confidence to really invest. Now, if you look at I mentioned earlier, some of the packaging and the production and the innovation that is in that sense, that's a absolutely key area for us to make sure that we're able to personalize the experience for you versus me, even if we're watching the same match. Now, that may be something as straightforward as camera angles or the multicam that you saw over there. Or whether if you are maybe of a younger audience, you're used to watching all video in a vertical format. We have Max View that allows you to watch cricket in that same vertical format. Or if it's a lot more interaction that you're seeking on your phone, whether it's a bit of the social gaming piece of it, or whether it is something more transactional, maybe like some kind of shopping-based integrations. Those are all technologies that we are seeing adoption across the board, and we're very keen to build into our own product. I think the really interesting thing is what happens from here over the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, everybody in this room is aware of what's happening with AI and especially with content creation. And we think that's a really exciting space because the sports viewing experience is going to dramatically transform in the next 3 to 5 years. Our vision of this is a completely personalized 1:1 feed for every cricket viewer or every sport viewer in the country. So even though you and I are watching the same match, what you will see is very different from what I will see. It will be based on which commentator I want, what kind of stats, what interactive features, which camera angles, completely different. And while that may seem fantastical today, already in the last, I would say 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, what we're seeing is quite remarkable. AI is already impacting our workflow. So things like smart highlights, where we have machines basically cutting clips based on where the machine predicts will be most well received by the audience. Or an obvious one, subtitling or helping with commentary. We had a clip where we had Stuart Broad was doing his commentary in English, where we switched him to Tamil in his own language. We got the accent right, apparently. We have some native Tamil speakers in our team. Or even these, interactive features like, live polls or predictability scores. And how do you, intertwine that into the entire product experience? And how do you do it so quickly that you're able to A/B test and see what works? This is the area that I think is going to really dramatically supercharge what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years.
I'm surprised Stuart Broad is, or rather AI isn't aware that Stuart Broad is very fluent in Tamil. Nasser Hussain is very fluent in Bengali. I think you should definitely ask them a few questions related to that. Comes to cricket, the one thing that AI definitely cannot replace is live sport. Everything else around it, the workings, can be replaced. And live sport in general is going through a bit of a transition. And there's 3 different formats. Let's speak about cricket as a sport right now. 3 different formats. We all know T20 is probably the most successful one in terms of a business point of view. But there are 2 other formats that are coexisting, which is very important to the sport in itself. The fact that a lot of domestic cricket, a lot of the grants that ICC gives various countries is based out of those 2 formats. Now, everybody knows that there are a lot of takers for the shorter formats. The shorter it gets, the better it gets. But there are too many formats, even in the shorter format, but people seem to get attracted a lot more towards T20 and where it stays. Now, as a broadcaster, you're sitting in the hot seat, so to say. What does it take for smaller countries to try and grow their other formats or help the other 2 formats almost exist in the ecosystem, so to say? Or is that a question, in fact, not even should be pointed at you, more towards the ICC probably?
Yeah. Look, I think this is a question that is relevant to all the stakeholders in the cricket ecosystem. BCCI, actually ICC in this specific case. Um, if you look at the way we think of cricket, a lot of people look at men's cricket, and specifically Indian men's cricket, as being a sort of zero-sum game, in the sense that Indian men's cricket is so big, if that wins, everything else loses. Actually, we think it's actually the opposite of that. It's the biggest lever that we have in order to grow other sports and other countries in the participation. So, for example, the sheer volume of traffic and interest that we get on Indians men's cricket is traffic that we can funnel to different parts and different sports in order to cross promote them. And we've used that very successfully to grow other sports, for example, Premier League, Kabaddi, or the US Open. You spoke about the three formats. The India-England Test series that we were just talking about was the highest viewed Test series ever across our network. So it shows that there is still interest in these formats, at least amongst the core fans. And how are we able to then expand that interest to adjacent fan groups and build a really immersive experience? That is, I think, the trick that we're always trying to get to. Now, on Premier League, are you a football fan or a tennis fan?
Tennis fan, not so
Tennis
much
fan.
football.
Okay. Then I'll take US Open as an example. Um, on the AV, you would have seen that I think it was 28 million viewers that we saw on the US Open, 36% jump year on year over last year. Now, why is that? One of the reasons is one of the feeds that we did basically followed Indian athletes at the US Open. And even though the results maybe were not that great, but there was a lot of interest over there. This is a technique that we used even during the Olympics in Paris in 24. We had a special feed called India in Focus. And 65% of the overall watch time, live watch time that we saw in the Olympics came on that feed. And if we're able to take men's cricket, the funnel, and put it into that feed, that's the way that I think the cross promotion will happen. And so from a broadcaster standpoint, that's the role that we can play in order to build up other sports.
That's fantastic to hear. We all know how passionate a country India is. And to see the kind of interest they have towards Indian sports persons across sport is always fascinating to hear. But more importantly, when it translates into numbers, you can see that could be a very ongoing, consistent part of your process as well. The one of the fastest growing, I can't say a format, area in sport is women's cricket. And as we sit here today, there is a World Cup that is happening. Yes, it is the 50-over World Cup. But it seems to be a format that, when I say format, not the 50 overs, but the women's cricket seems to be a platform where young girls have actually, slowly but steadily, using WPL as the platform, taken it to the next level. You can see India now on par with Australia's, England's, of the women's cricketing world. Now, obviously, WPL has played a big part in it. And you all have definitely played the biggest part in it. Do you see that constantly growing as well?
It is one of the biggest priorities for us to make sure that we get women's cricket and drive growth over there. And obviously, from a consumption standpoint, there is a lot of headroom. So from a business standpoint, it makes sense for us to do that. But I think more importantly, it's really important for women's cricket to grow, for our sporting culture overall as a nation to become more representative and inclusive. I have a 6-year-old daughter who's in school now, and she started playing cricket in school as a result of what's going on in the Women's World Cup. I just heard about this the other day, and it was so pleasing to hear. Because when that happens, then the whole flywheel kicks in. And what I mean by that is, you spoke about the WPL, but then there is investment from the government, from the private sector, broadcasters lean in, you have local leagues and franchises coming up. And when that starts happening, our results improve, the quality improves, and then we're not just at par, hopefully, with Australia and England. Hopefully, we'll beat them in the next few weeks and take the cup. So, did you see the game on Sunday, the India-Pakistan game?
Yes, very much.
Did you have a favorite moment from?
I must admit that I was genuinely looking forward to India having a convincing game, which they did, but there's a bit of a stutter through the middle, so I was a bit worried there, but they did, as expected, exceedingly well at the back end of the game. And India, as a team, is doing phenomenally well, and what for me is so keen, and if you had to ask me the moment, I would say Harmanpreet's run out that she got. I think there was a lot of fire in it, and I quite like the way she leads the team as well. There's a lot of emotions behind it, and that's what you want to see. But yes,
Yeah,
please.
and that's exactly the point. Say like women's cricket, the quality, the standard that it has reached right now is men's game in many different ways. I think it is incumbent on us as the broadcaster in order to be able to provide visibility for the game and tell the right stories. Now, provide visibility, that is all about making sure it has primetime programming, the right slots on television, the right kind of cross promotion that is happening across men's cricket. Now, we have India Australia coming up very soon. So, how do we make sure we take that funnel and make cross promote women's cricket in an appropriate way? That is, I think, what we can do on the visibility side. And on the storytelling part of it, there are so many stories over here, DK, which I'm sure you know better than anybody else. You know, taking us behind the scenes. We did a segment called Hum Honge Kamyab, where we, had access to the team's training session in Vizag. And of course, you saw them at the nets, you saw them do their fitness drills, but you also captured a lot of banter between the team that made it a lot more relatable to different audiences. And when it comes to player stories themselves, we've heard so many stories in Indian cricket of people who have come from, quite have overcome so many challenges in order to get to the Indian team. For women, it's just the next level. So the stories that we're able to tell, I think, are really interesting. For example, I think it is Shafali Verma, who was not able to play cricket in Rohtak, and her dad said, why don't you cut your hair and play with boys? And they just assumed that she was another boy playing at the nets. And so those kinds of stories, if we're able to bring out and tell in an appropriate, engaging way, that's what I think will lead to the growth of women's cricket also.
When IPL in 2008, this is probably my last question on cricket, then I'll drill Ishan a little bit on generic sport as well. When IPL came about in 2008, there was a conscious effort to mix sport and entertainment. Does it still stand good today? Or has it shifted slightly more towards the analytical side of things vis-a-vis the entertainment side of things? Where do you sit with it, and where do you think cricket as a sport stands, especially in the IPL format?
The great thing about cricket, and especially with the IPL, is because of the scale it operates on, there are many different fans. DK. There is the core sports fan who wants to go as deep as possible and figure out, like, this particular batsman who's coming, where did they make their debut in under 16, how much did they score in school cricket, etc. That's one segment. But as we're thinking about IPL, we are already operating at a scale. You saw it on the AV over there. Last IPL, we lit up 1.1 billion screens across TV and digital. Now, in order for us to grow consumption, whether it is number of people who come in to watch the match, whether it is the number of matches that they watch through the season, or it is the watch time that they have per game, there is scope for us to increase each of that. But in order to do that, we have to appeal to different interests. So you may have a casual viewer who may be interested maybe in a RCB CSK game, but maybe not so in some of the other franchises. There, melding it with entertainment, maybe reaching out to the right kind of Bollywood celebrities, or whether it is YouTube creators, or even working on IP that we have. You saw in the AV over there, we have an IP called Motu Patlu, which is we put the two characters right into the stream and had them engage with a kid fan as well as with the commentator, and that brought in very well. It was very well received. So I think a combination of that is very focused on bringing new audiences and bring the casual viewer in and get them involved in the IPL ecosystem. So that's the playbook. So to answer your question, I think it's both, because we are operating at a scale that we have to constantly reinvent what the offering is for the core fan as well as for the casual fan.
I completely love your honesty here. A lot of people could have easily said, no, it's a lot of sport, but the fact is that it is something that India likes. India likes a bit of song and dance about it. And the fact that we love our sport, and there is the core cricket viewer who likes analytics, as you said, but there are people who switch on and have fun with just watching. They just want to have time, a good time. In fact, I'm not going to lie, I did watch a little bit of IPL in Bhojpuri, because I heard it's very funny. Okay. So I didn't manage to do it. The fact that there is a couple of young cricketers who have done Haryanvi as well. These are languages that I'm not exposed to, but just watching them kind of commentate when somebody is hitting a boundary, the tones that they go in, all these I find very interesting.
DK, you have no idea how much of a passionate debate that is within our team, which is which language, should we do it for all the games, does it make sense or not? So there's a lot of thought and analysis and effort that goes into making sure we have a good product. But a very good friend of mine who's the chief product officer at GeoStar his name is Bharat. He was in the US for 20 years or 25 years or something. So he was a cricket nut, watched only, your commentary. But now he came back and he's from Chennai, switched to Tamil commentary. And the other day he was telling me, I don't watch English commentary anymore because it just feels more relatable for me to be watching cricket in Tamil.
Let's start by saying I'm very disappointed with Bharat. But I'll tell you this. So I haven't heard Bhojpuri, but Tim David hit 3 sixes in the last over of a T20 in the last year's tournament. And then we had a team meeting before the next game. And then there is this young boy called Swastik Chikara who plays for RCB. And he said he went to Tim David. It's very funny in IPL how people who actually, Indians who are not fluent in English, become very good mates with people who are absolutely no connect with any Indian language. So Tim David and Swastik Chikara became very decent friends, let's put it that way. So before the team meeting, he goes, takes his phone and shows Tim David and tells him, I want you to close your eyes and listen to the commentary and tell me what is happening there. It was such a funny moment. Obviously, Bhojpuri go on a completely different tangent and it's very funny as well. I could only hear Tim David laughing, not understanding the language. But the fact is that that's the kind of connect that people have with sport, at the same time the entertainment side of things, and the fact that you'll have cut across borders and gone to so many different languages is amazing to even think of. So on a lighter vein, let's finish this session by me asking you a couple of rapid fire, as I call it, but let's keep it very honest as well.
I didn't know this was happening. Okay, so go for it.
It's always important to bowl a googly at the end. If the batsman is not ready, you have a chance of a wicket there. So let me ask you 3 questions. Your favorite sport?
Cricket.
Your favorite moment in cricket?
Oof. Venkatesh Prasad bowling Amir Sohail in the 96 World Cup. I'm dating myself here, as you can see.
Let's finish off by saying your favorite cricketer.
Oh, that is so tough. Okay, but in order to not to create any controversy, I'm going to choose a women's cricketer.
Brilliant.
Smriti Mandana.
Lovely.
We are due a big score from her.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Ishan.
I know we're getting, but I would be remiss if I did not take this chance, DK. I need to ask you a question, which I'm sure many people in the audience also have. I want to take you back to Colombo, 2018. The finals against Sri Lanka. We need 38 runs to win, I think, in 12 balls. You're at the crease. What's going on in your mind, and how did you take us past the winning line for that iconic moment in our history?
I'm sorry, I have a bit of a cold, as you can spot with my voice. But let me just start by saying I was a very happy time in my career. Up until 2017, I played for various different teams. I kind of made up my mind that I want to be associated with an IPL team for a long time. And in that auction, I got picked for KKR. And there is Venki Mysore sir there, who is the CEO of KKR, who very much in favor of that decision. I'm hoping, I don't know, I haven't asked him, but it must have been the case, I guess. So in the lead up to that, it was a year-ending tournament. What I mean by that is that was the last tournament before the IPL started. So it was a year-ender. And about 3 weeks prior to that, he had called up and said, Dinesh, would you be interested in captaincy? And as you would know, he's done his due diligence and he's grilled me like he would grill anybody else and made sure that I would be a decent fit for his franchise. And that was a very important moment. So that is when I had also recently, just prior to that, started collaborating with my then coach, Abhishek Nair. So we had practiced these 10-ball, 12-ball scenarios quite a bit in the lead up to that. Not knowing what the future could hold for us, but definitely aware of the fact that there would be an opportunity to only play anywhere between 15 and 18 balls. So how do you create an impact in that? Nobody had taken it up as a kind of
scenario that
absolutely. To keep doing it day in and day out wasn't going to be easy because you'll end up seeing a lot more failures than success. But I wanted to make a life out of it by being that middle order finisher, as they call it now. So that's when the journey started, and I practiced so many 8-ball and 12-ball scenarios that walking into that game, I had belief that I could do it, but rather I knew how to do it. I hadn't done it in an international game before, but then I believed that I could do it. So when I went in there, it is so interesting. It's like being well prepared for an exam. You are nervous, but at the same time, you're aware that most things thrown at you, you can have an answer to, and things just fell in place it happened from such a subconscious kind of place that I just reacted to whatever was thrown at me. The brain was working well. And then I think the stars aligned as well. And thanks to your X platform, even today, that is the most watched sports video. And that is something that I'm really proud of. But that for me was the highlight of my career. Every cricketer would be known for one or two things through their career. For me, definitely the Nidahas Trophy was something that I'll always be remembered by. Thank you.
Thank you, DK. Thanks.
And I just want to say thank you. It's been a terrific few minutes chatting with you, and all the very best with your new
To you
journey.
as well. Thanks. Thanks, DK.
That we hear such candid reflections, sharp perspectives, and real stories from the heart of cricket and beyond. What a great fireside chat. Your words have sparked ideas, laughter, and inspiration. Going forward, the first panel is of the day is on cricketainment and beyond, the power of live entertainment. Live entertainment, especially sports, has redefined how India consumes media, stadium experiences, franchise cricket, and large scale events have created an entirely new ecosystem. To open this session, we have a keynote by Mr. Venki Mysore, CEO Knight Riders Group and Red Chillies Entertainment. Venki sir, can we have you on the stage, please? A round of applause to Venki sir. Let's welcome him here for the round.
Morning, everyone. I missed getting my selfie with DK, but firstly, a big thanks to FICCI and all the organizers for inviting me and giving me an opportunity. This is a great pleasure and honor. Done a lot of work with FICCI in the past in different avatars. In my previous life in financial services,